Hi, my name is Melissa Deely, and I jokingly call myself a friendly toxin slayer, which is way more fun than saying integrative health practitioner. And I'm also a trainer of NLP, neuro linguistic programming, timeline therapy, hypnotherapy, as well as NLP results coaching. In addition to what I do in my career, I am also a mom of two beautiful adult girls, wife, and I have a nonprofit called Girls Matter, which is all about stopping teenage marriages and keeping girls in school in Uganda and Kenya and giving them a better life. And so all of the revenues from my business, of that, 10% goes towards Girls Matter. And so anybody working with me is not only up leveling their own life, they're helping to up level the lives of girls somewhere around the world. That is breaking the poverty cycle, one girl, one family, one village at a time. Now, let's get back to why we're here. Today, I'm talking to you about the healing power within. And that comes back to my moniker of being the friendly toxin slayer. And the reason I call myself that is because I work with all four bodies: our physical body, our emotional body, our mental body, and our spiritual body. And very often, most people just address their dis-ease in the physical body. And what happens is 6 months, a year, 2 years later, they get new symptoms and some other dis-ease because now it's the emotional body or the mental body or the spiritual body going, hello, look at me. You didn't address me last time. And now I'm giving you more symptoms so that you can address me. And the reason for that is by the time symptoms show up in the physical body, they've already moved down through the spiritual, the mental, the emotional bodies into the physical body. So, for true healing and total health, we actually need to clear the dis-ease in the physical body and heal the physical body. And then we need to heal the emotional body, the mental body, and the spiritual body. So, I start with detoxing the physical body and looking at the root cause of the illness, imbalance, or nutrient deficiencies in the physical body and using functional medicine lab tests to determine what those are. And then I use timeline therapy to release the stuffed down emotion, that bag of rocks we've been carrying around with us since we were children, and release that out of our emotional body. I also use timeline therapy to release the toxic thoughts. Are we talking to ourselves as someone we love? You're beautiful, you're amazing, go for it, you can do this? Or are we talking ourselves down, saying we're not good enough, not smart enough, not pretty enough, not, cancel, cancel, cancel? We want to release those toxic thoughts and empower ourselves with thoughts that have us moving forward. And then we look at the spiritual alignment. And what I mean by that is, are you in alignment with who you were always meant to be? Or are you working in a job because it's a paycheck and there's benefits? However, it's not your passion, it's not your purpose. And maybe you don't even like the job. So, this is the work that I do as your friendly toxin slayer to help people get to total health. And as in addition to our four bodies, we have three minds. Now, I wasn't even always in health and wellness. I used to be in the corporate world for 24 years, loved that career until one day big fish bought little fish and I was given an hour to clear out my desk and no word of thanks. And in that moment, I knew three things. I didn't want to work for someone else again. I had no idea what I was going to do next. However, I was open to being guided. And whatever it was, it needed to be more of service to the planet and to humanity. And I was very much guided into health and wellness. And I started working as a coach and I learned functional medicine lab testing. And I noticed that some people were able to follow the wellness plans I created for them really well and get amazing results. And then I noticed some people had the best of intentions and yet they couldn't follow through. They would fall off. And I started wondering, why Can some people do it and other people can't? Am I not a good coach? And at that time, a naturopathic doctor reached out to me on LinkedIn and said, I've seen some of your posts. I love what you're doing. Let's have a coffee chat. I'd love to talk to you about the 4 mind body healing modalities. And I'm a lifelong learner, so I was intrigued and jumped on that call. And I also know the universe gifts you what you need exactly when you need it. And when she started talking about the power of the unconscious mind and childhood programming, that was the aha that dropped down for me as to why some people couldn't follow through with their wellness plans. And then she was telling me we can use these tools to rewire someone's neurology in order to take them to different choices. The choices that would allow them to step into the person they were becoming, as opposed to being stuck and held back by that inner 5-year-old. You see, when we are born, we're just born like the hardware of a computer. There's no software installed at all. We're just the very pure essence of our soul. And then over the next 6 to 7 years, it's download, download, download of everything we need to learn. We start learning to smile, to roll over, to sit up, to crawl, to walk. We start learning language. We start learning the rules of the household, the rules of school, the rules of society. We're just absorbing it. We're actually entirely in our unconscious mind at that age, in our theta brainwave. That's the only way we can learn so much so quickly. And then when we get to around the age of 7 to 9, we develop what we call the critical faculty, which is like a lace gateway between the unconscious mind and the conscious mind. It's when we develop logical thinking. And we start to get more into our conscious mind because that's what we're taught at school. We're taught the tools of our conscious mind. And we're not taught the tools of our unconscious mind. And yet the unconscious mind is the other 90%. And our unconscious mind is what has access to our higher self. Remember I said we have 4 bodies and 3 minds? Our conscious mind, our unconscious mind, and then our higher self. The conscious mind and the unconscious mind can communicate through that lace gateway, the critical faculty. And then the unconscious mind can communicate with our higher self. Now, our higher self, when we come into this life, has the blueprint of our perfect health. It has the blueprint of all of the resources that we need to be exactly who we're meant to be and very successful in that. It has it all there. All the resources are there. We just need to be able to access them. The conscious mind cannot access the higher self directly. It must go through the unconscious mind in order to access it. And so if we don't know the tools of the unconscious mind, we don't know how to access our higher self. When I realized this, it made so much sense. And I dove in and started learning from this naturopathic doctor and started learning these tools, applying them in my life, and I have never looked back. In fact, I fell in love with them so much that I went on to become a master practitioner in these modalities and then a trainer in these modalities because I realized I can have greater impact if I train other people in these modalities, practitioners, counselors, coaches, just people wanting to take these trainings to be the best version of themselves. And then those people go out and share this with other people, and we create an army of light workers that allow people to heal in the gentlest, kindest, easiest way possible. So let me just talk about that for a minute. First off, though, you need to understand what our unconscious mind is doing for us each and every single day. It has a big job. First of all, the unconscious mind is the home of your imagination. It is running your body. It is literally keeping you breathing, keeping your heart pumping, digesting your food without you giving it a moment's notice because that's entirely unconscious. It stores all of your memories. And in fact, it stores them all without judgment for later access by the conscious mind. And it will repress memories of unresolved emotions so that you can deal with it later. Because in the moment, you need to have those emotions repressed so that you can stay alive. I'm talking about first responders dealing with horrific accidents. I'm talking about military folk in war zones. They don't have time to deal with their emotions in the moment. They're just trying to stay alive. And then later, when the unconscious mind feels that it's safe or that they are safe, it will then bring those memories back up in order for you to be dealing with them. Because now your main priority isn't staying alive. That part's easy because you're safe. So it wants you to address these emotions and release them. However, so often we're like, nope, nope, talk to the hand. Don't want to deal with that yet. And we stuff it back down. And quite frankly, society teaches us to stuff our emotions down from a very young age in that programming stage. Boys don't cry, big girls don't cry, put your big girl panties on, etc., etc. And so we stuff it down. And then we carry around this bag of rocks. And over time, it's been well proven that suppressed emotion causes dis-ease in the body. So those are just a few of the things that your unconscious mind is responsible for. There's still many more. However, I don't have time to go into all of them here. What I do want to share with you is that timeline therapy is an incredibly powerful tool to help us release the stuffed down emotion and release those limiting beliefs without even having to talk about it. In fact, talk therapy is excellent for bringing awareness to people around whatever the problem is. However, repeating it over and over and over again is actually not helping you. It's deepening the neurology of the trauma that you're trying to release. You're not releasing it by talking about it. That's all conscious work. Your emotions are housed in the unconscious. So we have to release them through the unconscious, and that's where timeline therapy comes in. Because with timeline therapy, what we do is we go back to the root. It always makes sense to take it at the root, right? Take the root, the whole weed is gone. Don't just snip off the top. We ask the unconscious mind to go back to the root of the 7 negative emotions: anger, sadness, fear, hurt, guilt, rage, and shame. We do them one by one, each of the emotions. Let's go back to the root, to the first time you experienced that. It might even be in a past life. It might have been passed down to you generationally. And then let's get the learnings from that first event. We don't go into the event. We don't go and relive it again. We, in fact, look down on it from above. And you don't even have to tell me what's going on because your unconscious mind already knows what happened. It's filed that memory, remember? We get the learnings because everything is always happening for us. And when we get the learnings, that is when we can then release the emotion. And so we get the learnings, we release the emotion, we come back along our timeline back to now, and it will clear all of that negative emotion all the way back to now. Now, we aren't turning you into zombies. We want you to feel your emotions, and we want you to then allow them to be released in a healthy manner. We don't want you carrying around unwarranted, inappropriate emotion. And we know people do. Someone who has road rage and, someone honks and then they freak out, that's some suppressed rage that's trying to release itself. I truly believe if the entire world could do just one timeline therapy session, we would live in a very different world. So I want to move into the fact that we are all creating our own reality each and every day. And I'm going to explain to you how we are doing that. First off, did you know that we are taking in 12 million bits per second of information each and every day? That is a lot of information, and it's far too much for your powerful mind to be dealing with. And so it has to delete and distort and generalize and compress that information down all the way down to only 128 bits per second plus or minus 2. That is a massive amount of compression from 12 million down to 128. Now, just a fun fact question for you. Just think in your mind, 20 years ago, how much information do you think we were taking in per second? Because it wasn't 12 million 20 years ago. If anybody guessed 2 million, you would be correct. So in 20 years, the amount of information we're taking in has increased by 10 million bits per second, which means even more compression of information. We delete, we distort, and we generalize based on our filters what is important for us. Now, all humans have the same categories of filters. They are how we move through time, space, matter, and energy, our language, our values and beliefs, our decisions, our memories, our meta programs, which are the baseline of our personality. Those are the categories of filters, and all humans have the same ones. However, the information stored within our filters is as different as our fingerprints because no two of us have ever lived identical experiences. And it's based on what's stored in our filters that that information is compressed. And so this is, again, all happening outside of your awareness in the blink of an eye. Don't need that, don't need that. Oh, I'll keep that bit of information. Don't need that, don't need that. And so every single experience we have in our life goes through our filters and then pops out what we call an internal representation, or the movie screen in your mind's eye. And that's your memory of that experience. So what I find really fascinating, and this was a huge aha for me when I learned this, because I'd never stopped to think about the fact that we are all creating our own reality each and every day. I thought if I went to a concert with 499,000 other people, so did they all had the same experience that I had. And that isn't true. And in fact, a really good way to highlight this for you is, have you ever been to a family reunion and you're catching up with siblings and you're talking about an event that happened maybe 5 or 10 years ago, and they start telling a story and you're like, wait, no, that's not what happened. This is what happened. And they're like, no, it's not. This is what happened. I bet every single one of you listening to this has had that experience. And I know I certainly had. And I used to think that they were losing their memory and what was wrong with their mind. And now I realize there's nothing wrong with their memory or their mind. They're sharing their experience of that event. That is their truth. And I'm sharing my experience of that event, which is my truth. And because we're creating our own realities, they're different. And that's okay. I get to accept the fact that their reality is different to my reality. And just learning that shifted my whole world, because I didn't have to be right. I didn't have to prove them wrong because my memory was better, which is what I was inclined to do before. Now I can be like, oh, interesting that that's your reality of that experience versus my reality of that same experience. And so coming back to those filters, depending what's stored in those filters will obviously affect the movie screen that comes out, right, in your mind's eye. Is the movie screen that comes out in your mind's eye, is that the love story, or is it running the horror show? Because if it's running the horror show, the great news is we can shift your filters, again, using timeline therapy, in order to have it start running the love story, so that you love your life, that you see things in a positive light, instead of always naturally going to the negative, etc. That's what the programming was. Let's change it. Let's move you to the love story and get out of the horror show, because we can. We use the tools of NLP to adjust how someone feels, their state. We can also use them to adjust that internal representation as well. What is that movie screen? Is it what you want it to be? If not, let's change it. This is where the ability to rewire our neurology is so powerful. And all of the work that we do is bringing our clients to more choices for the person they're becoming, and releasing the programming, releasing the old neurology they've been running that worked for them very well when they were a child. However, their inner 5-year-old is not qualified to run their adult life. And that's where they're running into problems and getting stuck. And so we literally help you get out of your own way. And this work isn't difficult. We can literally teach these tools and techniques to 5-year-olds. And in fact, that's something I would love to see as well. What if we could just teach this in kindergarten and have all kindergartners know exactly how to change their state? If they're in a stinky mood, what if they could just change that in 5 to 15 seconds? Because that's how quickly we can do that with these powerful tools. Your state impacts your behavior, right? How you feel impacts the action you take. If you wake up tired, you're going to hit the snooze button and go back to sleep. If you wake up energetically, you might leap out of bed excited to start your day, maybe put on some running shoes and go for a jog. Your state always impacts your behavior. And we use hypnotherapy to create new behaviors, the behaviors that you want to be doing, except you just haven't quite got yourself there to do them yet because you're hitting the wall. So really what we do is we help you get out of your own way using these powerful tools. And I love sharing this information because, as I said at the beginning, we're not taught about the power of our unconscious mind. And when we work with our unconscious mind using these tools, we can create transformation that is fast, effective, it's easy, and it's lasting. I love that. Instead of having to force our way through using willpower, which we know doesn't work because the gyms are full on January 1 and they're not full anymore by January 31 because the willpower didn't last that long. You see, willpower is housed in the conscious mind versus working with the unconscious mind. We get 90% of our mind when we use the tools of the unconscious mind. We're only getting 10% when we're using the conscious mind. And it's a matter about using the right tool for the job. And if you're trying to change your behavior, change your filters, change that internal representation from the horror show to the love story, you definitely want to be working with the 90% of your mind. And all of this can only be done when you choose to take action, because we always have to ask permission of the unconscious mind. When you choose to get off victim island, the woe is me, my life sucks, cancel, 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 everything's happening to me, and you choose to learn the tools that will get you off victim island and over to Solution City. In Solution City, the restaurants are better. There's personal power stores that you walk in and you can put on your power suit and stand in your power, and it's totally free to do that. It's a beachfront condo that you live in. It's way more fun in Solution City. And that's where you're taking responsibility for your life, for whatever's going on, recognizing that I can do this. You're the creator of your life, of aha moments. You're doing your best and you're in your power versus blaming others, retelling the victim story over and over again, dramatizing everything. That's living on victim island. And yeah, we might end up back there even if we have these tools. However, when we have these tools, when we get back there, we're like, oh, I know where I am. I don't like this anymore. And you use your tools and you bring yourself right back over to Solution City. And the more you do that, the faster you can get off victim island and back to Solution City. So I'm not saying that life is perfect when we have these tools. What I'm saying is that you can create your best life with these tools, and you will recognize when you fall down, and you will, and that's okay. We're all human. And to use the tools to pick yourself back up. So this is how we heal ourselves, all four bodies, physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, and step into living our best life. Please check out my gifts that are here. And if you'd like to know more, feel free to reach out to me, melissa@yourguidedhealthjourney.com. If you'd like to work one-to-one, or if you're interested in our training courses, where you can take these courses to up-level yourself and then help up-level others.